Hello and welcome to this week's episode. If it sounds a bit funny, that is because it is the Monday Night Review on tour. We are in North Wales. I have my sister here. She's silent.
Hello. Lovely to be joining you.
She's lying on her bed. I've got my lapel mics. I'm on a eyeliner. She's on a teaspoon because I don't think they work very well on lapels. And we are in our lovely hotel room, and I've just looked up and I've seen there's an Agatha Christie book.
Yeah.
It's like it's meant to be. We're in a lovely hotel room in North Wales, and because we were coming and because I thought I'd take advantage of the fact that we're together, I have planned a whole episode around our visit, but it does mean that possibly the sound quality is going to be a little bit shonky. And there's a massive pigeon outside, so if you hear a pigeon, that's a Welsh pigeon. If I go into a terrible Welsh accent, I can only apologise. We do have Welsh ancestry.
Very much Welsh ancestry.
But the accent has not carried through.
But it is very tempting at all times to break into the accent of our ancestors.
My sister has had to go around various different parts of the land with me, falling into different terrible accents and being embarrassed. So I'm going to try and keep it British. Well, Welsh is British. English.
Received speech.
Received. It's going to be like a Radio 4 broadcast from the 1950s at all times. So we are in Conwy in North Wales. Oh, it's when I say Wales that I want to do it. And of course, as soon as I know that I'm going anywhere, I look to see if there's any hauntings or anything spooky. This hotel is apparently haunted.
Well, I didn't realise that when I booked it.
Wasn't it?
And then last night, in the middle of the night, I did think about that and wondered what we would see or experience on this trip.
Yeah, we've got another night, so this could go from historical episode of the podcast to what's that film with when it's
Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, Blair Witch Project. The next time you'll see us will just be Blair Witch Project.
You'll never see us again.
Directly up the nose. We're in room 110, if anyone. We never get heard of again. I'm going to switch my phone off. Like a pro. Right, so in today's episode, Jessie, we delve into the fascinating history and ghostly tales of Conwy Castle.
Wow, it's a proper castle, isn't it?
It's a proper castle. This imposing fortress in North Wales stands as a testament to the ambition of King Edward I and the turbulent medieval history of the region. But beyond its historical significance, Conwy Castle is shrouded in mystery with tales of hauntings and paranormal activity, adding an extra layer of intrigue. When we arrived last night, so we arrived quite late.
10 o'clock.
About 10 o'clock. And we drove past a castle on the way in. And we were like, oh, look, it's a castle. It was a very impressive castle.
Yes.
And then as we drove into Conwy, there's a proper it's a proper big castle.
It's got crenellations. It looks like the castle from Central Castings. When you really want a castle, there it is.
Yeah.
And you wanted Elstree Studios to build you one.
Exactly. And it was all lit up. And you drive over a bridge past the castle. And nobody's there standing with their mouths open at 10 o'clock at night going, there's a castle. But we did.
It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Don't get in on my podcast.
Oh, sorry.
I'm about to tell you that.
Sorry, sibling. Sorry.
So, do you know about the birth of Conwy Castle, though, Jessica?
No, I don't.
Jessie
Please do tell.
Is better at history than me, so hopefully, I'm hoping she'll correct any errors. But I was deep in medieval history for this, which I quite enjoyed, surprisingly. The older I get, the more medieval history floats my boat. So the story of Conwy Castle begins in the late 13th century during King Edward I's campaign to conquer Wales. So I have an overall feeling that Edward I is probably not a favourite person in Wales. In 1282, after the defeat of Llywelyn ap Gruffudd, I'm sorry, well, I know there are Welsh speakers who listen.
That was an honourable attempt.
Edward embarked on a massive building programme to consolidate his control over the region. Conwy Castle was one of several fortresses built as part of Edward's Iron Ring, a series of strategically placed castles designed to enforce English dominance. Construction began in 1283 and was completed in just how many years do you think to build that castle in 1283?
20 years?
4 years.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that quick?
That's so quick.
Isn't that, I mean, I think that's an impressive feat even for today. I don't think they'd build a castle in 4 years today.
No.
That's amazing.
No. That is amazing. Less planning, probably.
Probably they just didn't care about what people thought and just whacked up a castle.
Yeah.
The castle's architect, Master James of St. George, was a renowned military engineer who brought, I can't say this word, innovative, that's the one, designs to Edward's fortifications. Labourers were brought from all over England, meeting at Chester, where they would kind of march over the border to Wales during the summer months to complete building work. It was only really built during the summer months, which I can understand. It was pretty snowy when we drove through.
It was quite hard to get to, even for us. Do you know how many people were building it in those teams? No.
As many as they could get, I think. Meet in Chester, let's go build the castle.
Right.
It's thought to have cost around £15,000 at the time, which I think includes the castle and the castle walls around the town, which was an unprecedented amount. Do you know how much that would be in today's money? £15,000 in 1283.
Oh, I would say now that would be about 100 million.
No, 17 million. Oh. 17,500,000. Wow. I realised as I asked you this, neither of us have been blessed with maths.
Oh.
Also, it's a long time ago, 1283.
It's a long time ago.
So it's positioned on a rocky outcrop overlooking the River Conwy. The castle's location was carefully chosen for both strategic and logistical reasons. The river provided a natural defence and allowed supplies to be delivered by ship, bypassing the dangers of overland transport. So for those who aren't familiar with castle stuff, quite often, if you weren't going to be able to get into a castle to defeat people, you could just sit outside and wait until they ran out of stuff.
Siege.
Exactly. And then they'd have to either die of starvation and thirst or they'd come out. Not the case if you've got access by sea or river. So the castle's construction displaced a nearby Welsh abbey, which was relocated by Edward, further symbolising the assertion of English power. Conwy takes its place alongside Edward's other great castles of Beaumaris, Harlech and Carnarvon as World Heritage Site. UNESCO considers Conwy to be one of the finest examples of the late 13th century and early 14th century military architecture in Europe.
Oh.
So obviously, I wanted to find a little bit more about Edward I, or Edward Longshanks, as he was called. He was actually 6'2" at the time, when an average height of a man was
5'6".
5'5".
Oh, I'm nearly there.
So it's quite a lot bigger.
Yes.
And he's also called the Hammer of the Scots. Edward was King of England from 1272 to 1307, the eldest son of Henry III.
That's quite a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's doing pretty good, isn't it?
And he's the eldest son of Henry III, with whom he had a tricky relationship, and he spent much of his reign reforming royal administration and common law, which is very rock and roll of him, I think you'll agree. Historian Michael Prestwich states that his, quote, long arms gave him an advantage as a swordsman, long thighs won as a horseman. In his youth, his curly hair was blonde. In maturity, it darkened, and in old age, it turned white. The regularity of his features was marred by a drooping left eyelid. His speech, despite a lisp, was said to be persuasive.
Well,
I know, it shows you, it paints quite the picture.
A good portrait.
But it wasn't all admin. After suppressing a minor conflict in Wales in 1276-77, Edward responded to a second one in 1282-83 by conquering Wales and establishing English rule, building castles and towns in the countryside and filling them with English people. The Welsh aristocracy were almost completely dispossessed of their lands and poor governance and heavy taxes led to several revolts. People are split on their thoughts of Edward I. Great for admin and law, really bad for colonising Ireland and Wales and being anti-Semitic. It was Edward's son, the future Edward II, who'd become the first English Prince of Wales. Previously, that title had been used by Welshmen. I didn't sort of think about where the title Prince of Wales comes from, but it's almost like a two fingers up at the Welsh.
Well, it really is. Yeah. I mean, it's, then the English princes become the Princes of Wales.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quite a cheek.
It is a cheek. Not that I'm surprised, but, I hadn't really thought about it. But often the leaders of the Welsh uprising would, if they were successful, call themselves the Prince of Wales. And so they took that, the Edwards. So Conwy Castle is a masterpiece of medieval military design. Its curtain walls are over 15 feet thick in some areas, reinforced by 8 massive towers. The fortress is divided into an inner ward and an outer ward, separated by a cross wall with heavily fortified gatehouses protecting its entrances. With a hidden gate leading down to the river, this allowed the castle to be resupplied from the sea. It's the building of these 4 castles that sees the introduction of arrow slits into the walls of castles across Europe, something Edward had seen in Eastern architecture during his crusades. Didn't know that.
No, bringing things back.
Yeah, because I think if you were drawing Good Friday night, if you were drawing a castle, if you asked our youngest to draw a castle, they'd probably draw one that didn't look dissimilar to Conwy Castle.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think they'd draw arrow slits.
Yeah.
Because that's what you think of.
Totally.
The inner ward housed the royal apartments, reflecting Edward's dual purpose for the castle as both a military stronghold and a royal residence. The Great Hall, chapel, and private chambers showcased a level of luxury not typically associated with fortresses of the time. Castle was run by a constable who oversaw a castle garrison of 30 soldiers, including 15 crossbowmen, a carpenter, chaplain, blacksmith, engineer, and stonemason. It was an austere place to be and often poorly equipped. And by 1343, it was in need of a lot of work, which was undertaken by Edward, the Black Prince. So
sorry, how long?
So it was built in 1283, and by 1343, it needed some. Yeah, I believe all the wood, as you can imagine, it was pre-wood protection stuff.
Yes.
Also, I think we've got a very lovely warm hotel room, very comfy hotel room. The thought of being in North Wales in a stone castle, obviously no electricity.
The cold radiating off those walls.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
It must have been pretty bleak. At the end of the 14th century, the castle was used as a refuge for Richard II from the forces of his rival Henry Bolingbroke, who would later go on to be Henry IV. More on him later. So Conwy Castle played a pivotal role in several key events during its early history. In 1294, during a Welsh uprising led by Madog ap Llewellyn, the castle endured its first siege. The uprising had been planned when Edward and his army were supposed to be in France, having a bit of a fisticuffs over there, but bad weather had delayed their journey. So they were able to, when the uprising started, they just thought, bugger France, we'll go to Wales. So they reached the castle just before Christmas, 1294. Edward had lost his baggage train on the way up because obviously people had attacked them on the way to the castle. His baggage train, so he took refuge within its walls, relying on the castle's robust defences and access to supplies via the river to withstand the attack. It's said that things got so bad in there that he refused to drink his own supply of wine and instead shared it around his men. The town of Conwy was burnt down and Edward besieged until he was relieved by his navy in 1295.
Oh dear.
So they were in there for a good couple of months. Later, in 1401, the castle was briefly captured by supporters of the Welsh rebel leader. Any guesses?
No.
Most famous Welsh rebel leader, I'd say.
Now my mind has gone blank.
Owen Glendower.
Oh, Oh, right.
Using guile and subterfuge, a small group of his followers seized the castle, but it was soon retaken by English forces. During the War of the Roses between 1455 and 1485, fought by the rival factions of the Lancastrians and the Yorkists, Conwy was reinforced but played little part in the fighting. Henry VIII conducted restoration work in the 1520s and 30s, during which time he used it as a prison.
Oh, right.
During the English Civil War, 1642 to 1651, Conwy Castle was garrisoned by royalist troops. Following their defeat, Parliament ordered the castle to be slighted, which means partially dismantled, to prevent further military use, and this marked the beginning of the castle's decline into ruin. By the 18th century, Conwy Castle had fallen into disrepair. Its dramatic location and crumbling structure, however, attracted artists and writers who celebrated it as a symbol of romantic ruin. In the 19th century, the arrival of the railway brought more visitors to Conwy, cementing the castle's place as a tourist attraction. Restoration efforts in the 20th century preserved its structure, and today it's managed by Cadw, the Welsh Government's Historic Environment Service. In 1986, Conwy Castle and its town walls were designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site as part of the Castles and Town Walls of King Edward in Gwynedd.
Wow.
Now, I do like history, Piglet, but there's also hauntings.
The juicy bit.
The juicy bit. No story of Conwy Castle would be complete without exploring its paranormal side. Reputed to be one of the most haunted locations in North Wales, Conwy Castle is full of unexplained apparitions, and over the centuries, the castle's turbulent history has given rise to numerous ghostly tales. So, if we were doing, again, I'm putting you on the spot, if we were doing like a bingo card of hauntings.
Oh, no. What
kind of apparition would you expect to see in a castle?
A ghost?
Well, yes, but what kind of ghost? Any ideas?
Soldier. A soldier.
Yeah, phantom soldiers. We've got phantom soldiers. So, given Conwy Castle's history of warfare, it's no surprise that visitors report sightings of phantom soldiers. Footsteps and the clinking of armour are frequently heard, particularly along the ramparts.
Oh, that's spooky.
Ghostly monk. They've got a ghostly monk. One of the most famous apparitions is that of a hooded monk. This spectral figure is often seen near the castle's chapel or the outer walls, silently wandering before vanishing. Some believe the monk's spirit is linked to the Aberconwy Abbey and the Cistercian monastery displaced by the castle's construction.
Oh, so do you think he was haunting
previous?
Yes. Do you think he was previously haunting?
Yeah, maybe
the abbey before.
Exactly.
And then he's come.
It's just there still.
Yeah.
It's just adjusted
it onto the
walls. Well, exactly. Although I'm supposing they had a chaplain, but I think it sounds like he's always been there. They just built a castle on top of him.
Yes.
Some say that there are two monks, and they are said to float off the ground, terrifying locals and visitors alike. I thought it was interesting that locals have been terrified.
I think so too. But tell me, what sort of time of day do people see these things?
I'm assuming it closes at a reasonable time. We might go and see it later if we have time, but I'm assuming, I don't know. I don't have an official answer, but I'm assuming that some of this must have been during the day.
Yes.
Because that's when the visitors are more likely to be there. But if it's open until 6, and today you were saying the sun set at
4:15 today?
4:15. So if it's open till 6 and you're there at 5, it'll be pretty dark.
We need to go and check it out later.
We do need to go and check it out later.
For sure.
So a wailing woman. So I feel like we're ticking all boxes here because we've got a wailing woman. Another chilling tale is that of the wailing woman whose cries are said to echo through the castle's inner ward. She's believed to be the spirit of a woman who met with a tragic end within the castle's walls, probably during one of its sieges. Or, I don't know, that if there's a castle full of men, she's in the inner ward, which is where the king's rooms are.
Oh.
I just have a feeling that probably...
What?
women were ill-used.
Oh, yeah. And that's why she's
angry and crying and in the inner ward rather than
on the out. Yes.
Childlike voices, always sinister. The sound of children's laughter and whispers has also been reported, most often near the Great Hall. These phenomena are attributed to the spirits of children who may have lived or died in the castle during its occupation. I don't know enough about castles. I don't know what your castle knowledge is like. I understand that people are going to be living there, so their families will be there. But in rural North Wales, how many families are actually going to be there? Do you know what I mean? There's 30 troops, there's 14 crossbowmen. Do the crossbowmen bring their families?
I don't know enough about medieval warfare at that time.
No. Anyway, childlike voices, Jessie. Listen for those later.
Well, what were they? Were they there when the castle was under siege?
They could have been. Would you draw in? I don't know. I just feel like, did they take in people? I don't know enough.
Curious.
Poltergeist activity. I wish the person would sort out their car alarm. Visitors and staff have reported cold spots, disembodied voices, and unexplained movements of objects. Doors are said to creak open on their own, and the faint sound of stones falling is occasionally heard. I have to say, with anything this old, I feel like you're going to hear stuff.
I think things are going to move about quite a lot.
Things
are going to fall off.
Stone's going to crumble.
Yes.
My house is very old. Your house is quite old. My house makes loads of noise at night.
Mine shifts about quite a bit.
Yeah.
I must say.
So I think anything from 1283, that's a loud car. It's busy in Conwy this morning.
It's very busy.
But yeah, I feel like if we can hear our houses settling, there's going to be noises from a castle. And at that scale, and stone makes everything echo.
I mean, do you know any more about this?
Visitors and staff, Jessica.
Visitors and staff are just hearing
stuff.
Yes.
I mean, again,
are they seeing stuff?
Well, some are seeing phenomena. Some are seeing like doors close on their own.
That could just be a draft.
That could be a draft.
I don't know.
Or like a dodgy hinge.
Yes.
Again, we could fast forward to us doing Blair Witch in the middle of Conwy Castle, having been locked in.
It's becoming more and more exciting to me.
Now, one legend that's believed in the area, although there may be people from Conwy that one day listen to this podcast and go, nobody believes that, you nonsense woman. A group of fishermen were fishing in the Conwy estuary when a creature came up in their nets. When they took a look, they discovered it was a mermaid, and they paraded her through the streets while she begged to be put back in the water and gasped for air. The mermaid suffered an agonizing death, suffocating, but she still managed to curse the town of Conwy, dooming it to suffer war, disease, and disasters for all eternity. Many believe that the mermaid's curse struck in 1966 when Conwy Civic Hall was engulfed in flames and destroyed, and witnesses said they heard a woman laughing as the hall burned. It's quite a niche.
It is quite niche.
It's
quite niche, and it's a very powerful curse. Now, I wasn't aware that mermaids were great ones for cursing.
Oh, yeah, sirens.
Oh, actually, I suppose I hadn't thought.
Yeah, they do terrible things.
Talking of sirens.
Oh my god,
this car alarm is quite something.
It is, isn't it? I'm sorry, everyone. I was saying to Jessie at breakfast how I love it when I listen to some podcasts and they're on location, and I wish that I had the technical know-how or someone with the technical know-how so that I could just stroll around chatting and someone else could deal with the sound stuff. I can't even cope with it being in a hotel room. There's a car alarm going off. So I feel like if you were a mermaid and you died an agonizing death being paraded around the streets by fishermen and you cursed the town, would you in 1966 be like, right, this is it, Conwy Civic Hall, I'm taking you down? Wouldn't you just be like...
Well, was there a lot of death?
I don't think there was any death. I think it just burnt down.
Yes, I'm dubious of this.
Yeah. Dark figures have been seen in the windows and battlements, watching the town of Conwy below the castle. Some believe these spirits are bygone prisoners held at the castle by Henry VIII.
Right.
I quite like a spooky figure.
Yeah, I do too. A figure at the window.
Yeah, figure at the window.
Is that your dad up there? Oh, my dad's been dead for 20 years.
Are you okay?
I'm just talking about that trope.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like, what's happening? It's a call for help. Yeah, but it is. It's like
Psycho.
Like I saw you.
Norman Bates' mother has been buried in Greenlawn Cemetery for 20 years.
But I really had a craving to watch that film recently. I feel like we call my sister Rain Man because she's very good at dates. I'm now putting you on the spot. But recently I've had a craving to watch Psycho and The Graduate.
Right.
And there was an era where you and I basically just watched Psycho and The Graduate.
Oh, yeah.
But I can't remember what year that was.
1997, 98?
That's what
we only watched films from about 1962 to 1967.
But there was no internet. Well, I mean, there probably was in the start of the internet, but like we had the VHS.
That was
Psycho
good enough for us.
And Graduate, and that's what we watched. Both quite different films.
Both quite different films.
But both scratch particular itches, I think. Anyway, I've been having a Psycho craving, but I still don't think I can watch it by myself.
Really? God,
the music is really...
Yeah, it's just... I know that there is the skull imagery, but it is basically the suggestion.
Have you seen someone has put... You know the Rusted Root song, Send Me On The Way, that's in Matilda?
Yes.
Someone's put that over the top of the intro to The Shining.
Oh.
The not the intro, the trailer to The Shining. And it has a man going, "Meet Jack." And they've made it into like a rom-com. Have you seen that?
I thought they had that Climbing Up on Salisbury
Hill. Oh, maybe they do. It's something like
that. And it's absolutely
it shows you how important the music is. Anyway, we've gone on a
segue.
We've segued out. We're segueing back in. Not only do scary films continue to captivate, but Conwy Castle continues to captivate visitors. Do you see what I did there?
I see.
With its blend of historical significance and supernatural intrigue, exploring the castle's towers and walking its well-preserved town walls offers breathtaking views of the surrounding landscape. Meanwhile, its ghost stories and haunted reputation make it a favourite destination for paranormal enthusiasts. So whether you visit for the history, the architecture, or the hope of encountering a ghost, or for your siblings' art exhibition, Conwy Castle stands as a monument to King Edward I's ambition and a witness to centuries of Welsh and English history. Very tactfully put by me there. Some might say Welsh oppression. Its walls have withstood sieges, rebellions, and the ravages of time, and its legends of hauntings add an air of mystery to its enduring legacy. And that's it. That's our trip to Conwy Castle.
So exciting.
I think my knowledge of Edward Longshanks, was that he reformed law and admin. And I imagine that's all he did. But he really bashed the Welsh.
Yeah, that's the less good.
It's the less good bit, part. But he was much more wary than I imagined.
Yes.
And that's it. Thanks for being my guest today.
Well, I've really enjoyed hearing all about the castle.
She can get back to her J. Rayner book now while I faff about. And I will put up some pictures of the castle if we go, or just Conwy whilst we go around. They seem to do a really good line. I've seen ice cream advertised in 3 separate locations. Yeah. Any locals? Is there a big ice cream thing going on? There's 2 ice cream parlours outside my hotel. They've advertised it where we had breakfast in the hotel. So I feel like a wander around the town and possibly some ice cream is on the cards. So I will. Oh yeah, we've got no kids, no husbands. We probably won't make it out of the hotel room. We'll just read our books and have a nap. And until next time, you can check out merch through the link below. Sister has just bought a hoodie and she's very pleased with it.
You're very pleased with it. It's got a dog on it.
You're not a hoodie wearer normally.
No, I'm wearing it for my early morning exercise. but also it's very useful for just being anywhere.
Comfy.
Yes.
I'm actually recording like a spod in my Monday Night Review t-shirt because when I packed to go away, and it's weirdly, because I work outside, someone who I work with messaged me and said where we work was -9 this morning. It's a balmy 2 degrees here, but we both bought layers because there's nothing worse than being cold. And if you want a comfy t-shirt, Monday Night Review t-shirt is the way forward. So you can look at the link below. You can find me on social media at the Monday Night Review. You can email me, themondaynighreview@gmail.com. Thank you very much to Jessica for joining me. And until next time, be kind, stay safe, and always check the back seat before you drive.